Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo. Welcome to another HOBOTECH News product review. Now, I'm usually not one to get too excited about micro power stations because they're generally too underpowered to be useful for a power-hungry user such as myself. However, this new EcoFlow River 3 Plus is an exception. While it's only 286 watt hours, it has a very usable 600 watt inverter in this little box with a 10 millisecond UPS feature. And it offers something the competition doesn't at its size and price point, and that is battery expandability up to 858 watt hours total for this package. That makes it a very unique and extremely affordable product at only 33 cents a watt. But is it any good? Let's find out.
HOBOTECH.
Okay, so let's ignore the extra battery for the beginning part of this because I'm just going to talk about the top part, which is actually the EcoFlow River 3 Plus. Now this sports a 286 watt hour lithium iron phosphate battery rated 3,000 cycles to 80% capacity. I do have it sitting on top of its larger 572 watt hour add-on battery they call the Battery 600, and we're going to talk about that more in a bit. Now, as for size and weight, the R3P, as we're going to call it for the rest of this video, weighs in at a featherweight 10 pounds, and it's only 9 by 9 by 6 inches, making it very suitable for small spaces. And I'll show you just how small it is. I mean, that is the unit by itself when it's not connected to the battery. It does rock the new upgraded Model 3 display that shows all the essentials such as input, output watts, time to charge, discharge, battery percentage with animations. Now the built-in R3P inverter sports a 600 watt pure sine with 3 outlets. Now you only see one on the front, but there's 2 more on the back, so a total of 3. Now this product does have the built-in EcoFlow proprietary X boost that will boost that up to 1200 watts only for certain appliances. So you can run things like coffee drip machines or kettles. You can only boost resistive appliances and nothing with a compressor motor or computer chip. I recommend you leave it off unless you really need it. As for ways to charge, it can be charged with AC power. It comes with this honkin' giant, super thick AC power cord for something so tiny. I don't know why they needed to include such a heavy-duty cable for something that can only charge at like 360 watts, but okay. It can charge from 0 to full in 1 hour flat, and that is pretty impressive. It can take up to 220 watts of solar, up to 55 volts, which is more than enough for something of this size, and max solar can charge it in about 90 minutes. Of course, you can also charge from any 12, 24, 36, or 48 volt battery up to 13 amps, including from vehicles at 8 amps, using this cable in under 2 hours, making it very quick to charge from virtually any DC source. Now, if you opt for one of these extra batteries with this product, these can actually, for the first time in EcoFlow history, be charged separately using USB-C power delivery source up to 140 watts through this tiny little USB port. Now, as for 12 volt output types, it of course has a single 12 volt car port. This is regulated at 12.6 volts and good for 10 amps. As for USB outputs, it does sport a single 100 watt power delivery output and a pair of standard USB-A ports. As mentioned, the extra battery, both small and large size, do include a bidirectional USB-C 140 watt power delivery version 3.1 standard. That is something new that very few power stations right now in the market have. This does offer a lantern style light here on the front, and we'll go over that here in a moment. That's something that seems to be going the way of the dodo, so it's glad to see it be brought back on EcoFlow's latest. Now here's something I've never seen before, first time ever in the history of HOBOTECH. This comes with a USB-B cable, the type that you use for a UPS or uninterruptible power supply, because on the back, hidden behind this little slidey door, is a USB-B port. You plug in this cable, and then you plug this into your computer or NAS or any other appliance that supports UPS shutdown from a UPS signal. And this will actually shut your computer, NAS, or other appliance down automatically once this battery is about to die. Now, I've never seen this feature before. It's been long awaited. So many people have been wanting this for years and years. It's great to finally see that EcoFlow is again the leader in innovation. And EcoFlow, of course, does offer their standard 5-year manufacturer's warranty on this product. And of course, I took the EcoFlow River 3 Plus here into my secret laboratory where I performed all kinds of crazy experiments on it, including, yes, of course, a double-fisted battery capacity test. As for the results of the DC battery capacity test, it scored 249 watt hours out of 286 for 87%. Now these are good results that match up well to the base model River 3 as well as the newer Delta 3 series. As for the results of the AC battery capacity test, it scored 230 watt hours out of 286 for 80%. Now I was a little bit disappointed in this result because I expected at least 85%. But I did have to run this test a bit hotter than I normally would, since the smallest AC load that I can run reliably for several hours without it changing is about 130 watts. That ends up being closer to the 0.5 C of the battery instead of the usual 0.2 C that I try to do this test at. This means this test only took 2 hours instead of the typical 4 to 5, and the extra heat generated from running this a little bit harder could have cooked a few of those extra watt hours away. Now, the thing is, I don't think too many folks here are going to care all that much about a measly 14 watt hour difference between an 80% and 85% result, because that's really all it is, just 14 watt hours of difference. So this is a tiny power station with a tiny battery. It's just a little tiny fraction of the battery that probably was cooked away in heat, so I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Now on to the phantom load or parasitic drain test. Now we ran the DC consumption test for 12 hours. It used only 27 watt hours, which is great. You do some simple math, that is 54 watt hours over 24 hours. Means it'll take a whopping 5 days to kill the battery if you just left the DC on, just like that. 5 days. That means this thing is great for running things like 12-volt fridges, routers, and if you have a Starlink Mini, this is a great choice. Now what about the AC consumption test where we just left the AC inverter on? We'll let that run for 6 hours, and it used 56 watt hours, or about 224 watt hours over a 24-hour period. That means if you left this inverter on with nothing else plugged in, it would totally kill the battery in about 1.25 days. Now that sounds like a bad result, but you have to remember this is a very small battery compared to the size of the inverter inside. 286 watt hour battery, 600 watt inverter. 600 watt inverter is going to consume more power while it's running compared to something that would normally be in this, like a 300 watt inverter. And I think most folks using this AC inverter are very likely not running it overnight or for long periods of time, but simply running a small appliance, charging a laptop, or running something for a few hours a day and then shutting it off. Now, if you are leaving this thing plugged in all the time to AC power and using it as a UPS, yes, it's going to waste some power, but all UPSs do. So I'm always asked how long stuff's going to run on these power stations, so compensating for the usable capacity that we just discovered, you can pause the chart that I'm putting up on screen to see approximately how long common appliances will run. Obviously, this thing doesn't run over 600 watts, so all those appliances have been crossed out. Pure sine wave check under load, 119 volts, 60 hertz, clean sine wave. Inverter capacity test, how hard can we push the 600 watt pure sine? Okay, we're going to start at 560 watts and keep increasing it. We're at 650, 750. Just around 800 watts, it conks out. Note that this test is done without the X-Boost feature turned on. We can try turning it on to see if we get a different reading, but all that does is reduce the voltage coming out to provide more amps. And a lot of appliances don't like that, so I usually don't test for it. X-Boost gets turned on in the app. Yeah, I'm already having problems. My load on the floor is refusing to start up because the voltage isn't right. So we're going to skip the SAW test and move on to the heat soak 5-minute cooling test, because this is not going to run a 15 amp power tool. So we do this test to make sure that the power station doesn't misbehave and do anything crazy like smoke or drink or party all night long or kick the dog or forget to take out the trash. So hopefully we won't get any weird smells or sounds or flavors or tastes. Yeah, it doesn't taste that good. So I don't think it's going to taste any better after I run this test. Let's give it a shot. I can't get it at exactly 600 watts, so let's try around 650 for 5 minutes and see what happens. At 650 watts, it died in just under a minute, so I'm going to have to find a way to get this to just under 600 watts. Okay, I can only go by factors of 100 in my load here, so I can pull 560 watts. Let's go ahead and start the timer. We'll make sure that it can at least handle 560 watts for 5 minutes. We're back, no big surprise, 560 watts going on 5 minutes, no issues whatsoever. In fact, I can barely hear the fan running at all at this pretty much maximum load. I'm gonna try to go ahead and get the decibel reading off of it. My mini split in this room is running on its lowest setting. It's not getting any quieter in here than 42 decibels. That River 3 Plus is virtually silent. I am running it at just over 600 watts right now, and I can barely hear the fans running. This is a very quiet piece of machinery. All right, max charge rate test. This is where we pump in as much fake solar as we possibly can to see how fast this thing will charge. Now, this charges from 11 to 55 volts DC, so I have my variable voltage charger. Everyone keeps asking me about this thing. I'm going to include a link from now on in the description of the video if you want to pick one of these up. They're very expensive, but people keep asking me, so there it is. I'm setting this to 12 volts, and this has a maximum output of 20 amps. Now, I'm using what's called an XT60i connector. So it's an XT60, but it's orange, and it has an extra little pin in there. And what that tells the EcoFlow is that you're plugging this into something that's not a car. Now, this does actually come with an XT60i connector, but that is only going to charge at 8 amps. By doing the bypass, it'll let me charge the maximum amps at the input. So let's see what we get. We're at 12 volts. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. So this is going to charge faster than it would from a car. But say you wanted to charge from a raw 12-volt battery or another raw 12-volt source such as this. So you can see down here, you're getting about 13 amps. That's much higher than you would get out of a cigarette lighter socket in a car, what they call a car accessory port now. We're charging at 150 watts at 12 volts, so that is pretty fantastic. So if you want to charge this thing quickly from a 12-volt battery, you can charge it in under 2 hours from 12 volts. That is great. That's what's the power of these little power stations, when they can charge faster than 12 volts. So let's go ahead and turn it up to typical solar panel voltage, or 18 volts. It's still going to hold the 13 amps, the maximum of the input. And we're now up at 220 watts of charging. And I believe that is the maximum that the input will allow. But let's go ahead and take it up higher and see what happens. So if you want to charge with a 24-volt battery at 25 volts, it's now limiting itself to 9 amps. So let's take her up to 48. So if you want to charge this from a big 48-volt battery, which would be nominal about 50 volts, it's pulling 4.5 amps, still topping out at 220. Now they said that 55 is the maximum. Let's verify that. 55, 57, 58, and then it overloads. So you can get about 57 volts, and it will allow you, but the official maximum is 55 volts. So you can see there you're hard capped at 220 all the way down from 18 volts. So pretty easy to cap out the solar on this. And notice it does reset by itself as soon as you go back into the proper voltage. So I put it back to 18 volts, like you're going to use a small solar panel. It does reset the input, and now there it goes again. I didn't have to do anything. I like auto reset. That means if you have too much voltage in your solar, it'll reset by itself. So there we go. We're maxing in at 220 watts. So that's a pretty easy test. By the way, I want to let you know I've been kind of pulling your leg here because this battery's not hooked up. I'm just using it as a stand. I actually have the rubber protector on it so that the two won't click together. But this whole time, this battery's been on, so it just stays on, and it does have a USB port, so you could actually put power in or out at 140 watts, that USB port. That is awesome. It's like the first time ever the EcoFlow decided to put a USB port on one of their extra batteries, and man, I'm going to be taking this thing camping with me because I could run my laptop for quite a long time off of that little USB port. That's going to be great. But I'm basically using it as a stand so I can keep it high enough up for the camera. So that's the only reason why I got this set up like this right now. I'm going to go ahead and click the battery in here in a few minutes and show you how that works. No cables. EcoFlow is really innovating lately. They got a lot of these Series 3 power stations that are just unbelievable technology compared to everybody else. It's just running circles around everybody else. It's so funny. All right, so let's go ahead and turn this off for now. And I'm going to go ahead and do AC charging tests because you can obviously, like every other EcoFlow in the world now, you can variable charge it from slow to fast using the app. So let's go ahead and plug in the cable to the wall and do some variables charging and see how low and how high we can go. In the app, it shows AC charging speed goes up to 650 watts, but I've never seen this thing charge any faster than about 350. I have never seen it charge faster than about 360 here. Now, maybe it will do it in bursts under certain conditions, but 650 watts seems like way too fast for this battery. But at 360 watts of charging, the fans aren't even running, so there's no point in doing an audio test. I can put this on silent just by clicking on that. Okay, so now I'm in silent charging mode, and that forces it to charge at only 80 watts to prevent fan noise. You can see here, I do have it at 80 watts. I think that is a new icon that showed up. Yes, that icon disappears whenever I put the charging speed back up to maximum. Unlike other EcoFlows, you can get very specific. I told it AC charging speed 131 watts. And there it is, it's like 132 watts, it's almost exact. So yeah, you can really dial it in anywhere from 80 to 650 watts on this little product. That's awesome. Or you can just pick the silent charging there and that will just automatically set it to 80. But like I said, I have this charging at maximum speed. I don't hear the fans at all. Like, they're not running at all. So maybe if I let it charge long enough, the fans will start to come on. But I've been running this thing a while and the fans haven't come on. So I'm going to pretty much call that silent charging. That's pretty fantastic. What about simultaneous charging? Maybe we can charge this thing faster with AC plus solar at the same time. So let's go ahead and turn the solar back on. I call this solar, it's fake solar. Okay, so we have our answer. It does simultaneous charge, but it doesn't charge any faster. What this has is called solar priority, where it is essentially ignoring the AC input right now and only charging with solar because you want the greenest, freest, cheapest charging possible. So if you have all your solar coming in, you don't need AC power to charge. So this basically cuts off AC power, and it's charging at a maximum of 366 watts. It's really no faster. I do need to correct my last statement. When running in solar priority mode with simultaneous charging, it'll pull 140 watts from the wall and then the rest 220 from solar. I said it doesn't pull anything from AC. I was doing the math wrong in my head. It even happens to the absent-minded professor once in a while. So 140 from AC, 220 from solar for your total of 360 watts. All right, 12 volt output check. This has a single 12 volt output, the car port as they call it nowadays. It's regulated at 12.6 volts. That's typical for EcoFlow. For some reason, they don't do 13.3 or 13.6 like others. They do 12.6. We can pull 10 amps and it still holds 12 volts. That is a pass. USB check. This has a single 100 watt power delivery output on it. I have these 140 watt power banks, meaning they can be charged or discharged at 140 watts. At the new USB 3.1 power delivery specification, and it's 94 watts there. Now, I did mention that this battery has its own USB output, and this is 140 watts, so it does 24 volts at 5 amps. So let's go ahead and test it and make sure. This is a bi-directional port, so you can put power in or out at 140 watts. That is awesome. So let's test it. Now, this has no screen on it, so we can't tell without joining the two batteries together. But we can tell from this if it's working or not. Okay, and there proves that it can actually take 140 watts input. So we got 133 going into the battery now. You can see when it's charging from the power bank that the light on it blinks. So very cool feature. And there we have it inputting 137 watts. So it works in both directions. Everyone's favorite controversial test, the UPS test, is where we test the built-in uninterruptible power supply mode of the River 3 Plus. They claim a 10 millisecond switchover. So if you have this plugged into the wall, then you have your computer plugged into this, and the power goes out. It's supposed to switch over to battery within 10 milliseconds. That's extremely fast. So it shouldn't affect this PC at all. This is a full desktop PC, Intel 5, CD-ROM drive, everything. This is a portable monitor. I'm trying to keep it a compact setup. I'm gonna go ahead and play a music video from YouTube at 1080p full resolution. So let's go ahead and get that started. I have the power coming in from the wall in this switch box. When I hit this switch, it's going to turn the power off to the River 3 Plus, and we'll see, does the PC continue to run without power coming from the wall? Place your bets. 3, 2, 1. Well, that's interesting. The light flashed. Is that supposed to do that? All right, that was strange. Let's do that again. I am charging from the wall at full power. Place your bets. 3, 2, 1. Weird. It did it again. Well, the PC is running, so it didn't cause any kind of lockup or freezing issues. a built-in alert system in the River 2 Plus telling you that the power went out? Let me check the settings in the app because it doesn't seem like it should be doing that. So yes, this is a feature in the app that can be turned off. It's called Power Outage Reminder. I must have had that on by accident. I went ahead and shut that off. Let's go ahead and make sure that the light doesn't blink now. Cool feature. I like that. EcoFlow should add that to all their power stations that have lights, which, how many of them do they have now? 2 or 3? Let's go ahead and turn the power off now. Okay, no blinky light. But that's good to have. I kind of like that feature. So just to let you know, that is optional. I do want to mention that this product with the EcoFlow app will remember your settings if, say, the battery dies and it gets charged up the next day with solar. They call this output port memory. So you can pause this and read it. So that's one of the features that I know a lot of people like. In fact, this might end up replacing my EB3A that I'm using to run my NAS, because every time that battery runs out, it doesn't turn the AC back on again. And I need that. This does that. So this is going to be replacing my old EB3A that I've been running my network and Starlink and everything off of for the past 2 years. Anyway, this passed the UPS test with flying colors, and we found a neat feature in the process. Musician's favorite amp interference test. This is where we determine, is the inverter in the River 3 Plus clean or dirty? Meaning, can you play a power amp, ham radio, or something through the inverter and not get interference from the electronics inside? So place your bets. I'm going to hit the power button on the inverter and we'll find out if it's clean or dirty. Now I am getting a little bit of interference. It's not bad, but let me turn off all the LED lights in the room and see if it makes a difference. Okay, turning off the lights, moving around my phones and stuff makes no difference. Let me plug this into the wall and you'll hear the difference in the buzziness. Now, I wouldn't say this is bad, but it definitely has some kind of background buzz. So there's the difference. So from the wall, it's silent. Of course, you have the hiss of the amplifier, but you don't have a buzz. Let me switch them again just to show you. I want to prove to you that it is the inverter and nothing else in the room. So yeah, slight buzz. I'm not going to call this a pass. Now, if that amount of noise doesn't bother you, out of an amplifier, ham radio, if you're on stage or something, you want to use this as a portable power supply, that's fine. It'll work. It'll do the job. Just be aware that even with iron ferrites on the cable, and I put these on here to get rid of the interference in the rest of the room, and that seems to have helped that. It's not going to help the power supply. So it's actually just a little bit buzzy. May not bother you, but it may bother some of you, especially if you're wearing headphones. So keep that in mind. Then again, we are talking about a bargain basement product. This is pretty much EcoFlow's cheapest or second the cheapest product out there. So can't expect it to pass every test. AM radio interference test. So let's go ahead and turn it on with an AM radio tuned to a blank station. DC. AC. It's actually not too bad. It's not too bad, a little bit. Of course, what you expect on an inverter like this. All right, EMF or electromagnetic interference test. You can see we have a base reading. I make sure my phone is away here. A base reading of around 2 like we usually do. Let's go ahead and turn it on and see what happens. Okay, of course we get a little interference on startup there. I bet you it's the Wi-Fi. Yeah, it does say Wi-Fi on there. So you have to remember there is a Wi-Fi transmitter. So that is going to cause it to trigger a little bit. Let's turn on the inverter. Inverter and DC. We're getting between 60 and 70, and that is kind of typical for an inverter. It does say Wi-Fi, so there is some Wi-Fi interference, but this is about what we expect for an inverter of this size. All right, we have one feature left that we haven't covered, and that is, of course, the light. Yes, it's been a long time since we have a power station with a light on it. So let's see, does it have the infamous SOS mode? We can call down our little buddies, or does it not? Did they finally start to get rid of these stupid blinky lights in these power stations? Let's find out, all right? So power station has to be on. Press number 1 is a low light, that's nice. Press number 2 is a high light, that's nice. Press number 3, It's just off and on, okay? This is not SOS, this is just blinks off and on. I have no idea why you would ever need this, but okay. Fourth press. Guess what? We're not calling down our little buddies from upstairs today because there is no SOS light. So EcoFlow finally got rid of it. Hopefully this trend will continue for these little power stations. You could never see a light like this from an airplane or from miles away on top of a mountain or something if you're calling for help. Pretty much makes SOS useless on something like this. So it's nice. It does have a nice light bar, which does kind of light up the room. I like these a lot better than flashlights. The flashlights I think are kind of useless. Lights like this actually will help you light up your tent or inside of a van or wherever else, and having multiple settings is nice. I wish I had 3 levels instead of just 2, instead of the blinky light, because like I said, if anybody knows what you would actually use this blinking light for, let me know. I mean, if you're on a boat or something, I guess if you want to do a blinking light, I don't know. Somebody have to tell me what a steady off and on blinking light would do. And something I did notice is that it does actually tell you it uses 1 watt, 3 watts, and then the blinky light uses 2 watts. So it actually does tell you how many watts the lights use, and that's kind of nice. So there is one final feature that I didn't actually cover, but I'm not going to demonstrate it because it takes too long to set it all up. But EcoFlow actually provides a USB cable, a USB-B to USB-A cable. Because this has a UPS mode in it, you can actually hook up a USB cable to your PC. That's right, you can hook this up to your computer, and when it starts to run out of power, it'll send a signal and shut your computer off. Now this is the first time I've ever seen this feature on a regular solar generator or portable power station. That's something reserved for an actual UPS that you would buy that has a little lead acid battery in it, and it online UPS that stays on all the time. So very cool feature. This might be something I test offline when I get some time, because I do want to see if it works. Just don't have time today to do this and deal with the PC and the drivers and all the other stuff. Yeah, very cool feature. I'll have to definitely check that out in the future. There is one last thing I need to check, that's battery calibration. So let me go ahead and take the little rubber stopper off the bottom here that protects the actual transfer of power and data between the extra battery and the power station. That's right. This thing clips on, no cables. Fantastic idea. Other companies have done this, usually on very large power stations. You don't see too many of them do it with these little ones. But that means no cables that you have to haul around. It's really awesome. And this clicks in really easily. A hook like this and drop it. That's it. Now you can pick the whole thing up and still pick it up with one hand. Now you can see the lights came on. But did you notice something whenever I hooked up the battery? Now you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this with the power station turned on. Let me unhook it. I'm gonna put my hand back here to prevent it from connecting. Look at the display. All right, this battery is charged to 99%. This one below is charged less. I don't know how much less, but I know it's not completely full. Let's see what happens when I click the two together.
Well, looky what we have here.
Not only do you get a port light that shows up on here, but it recalibrates it to 96%. So unlike a Jackery that doesn't actually detect its external batteries and recalibrate the main meter, this one does. Now, all of EcoFlows do this. All the extra batteries that connect to an EcoFlow power station calibrates the main meter to let you know how much total power that you have. So this is 96% of the combined battery of both of these. And if you want to know what the power of just this is, you just have to push the button in the back, lift it up, and now it changes back to 99% because this is almost fully charged. Now, this light bar will tell you how much this battery is charged, but since I'm way up here, it's probably 95%. It's not going to show. I'm probably have to discharge at least 10% to get the little blank to show up here. But yes, and you're not supposed to do this with it turned on, like I said, so don't yell at me in the comments that, oh, you're not supposed to do that with the power on. It does recalibrate. So, and I like the fact that you can pick this thing up with one hand with the extra battery on. This is super unique. The look is awesome. The size is perfect. I do like the fact that it's got outlets both on the front and back. So you got an outlet on the front, 2 outlets on the back, a little slidey door that covers up the inputs and outputs in the USB. It is just so well designed and thought out, and it's very good looking. I'm definitely taking this with me on my vacation here next week. So I'm going to put this to test in the desert for a month, and we'll see how it works out in the long haul. So what do I think about the River 3 Plus? Well, it finally happened. EcoFlow finally killed the reign of the Bluetti EB3A with a better product at the same price. For over 2 years, budget-minded users have flocked to that $200 600-watt Bluetti for its quick charging and 20 millisecond UPS feature. I myself bought 3 of them with my own money, and while I didn't have any issues with them, there were a lot of folks that had UPS failures. Well, now there's a new kid on the block. The River 3 Plus has a better 600-watt inverter, a faster 10 millisecond UPS feature, a Pro UPS feature, is virtually silent. And one of my complaints about the EB3A Bluetti is that the fans are kind of loud and scratchy sounding. This actually charges faster with both solar and AC power, and most impressively is expandable, as you can see, up to 858 watt hours, crushing the competition on runtime. Now, this thing is only around 200 bucks, so EcoFlow literally just broke the internet. So how does the River 3 Plus compare to, say, the base model River 3? Well, this Plus model has twice the output, a quicker UPS switchover, offers more AC outlets, and has the awesome battery expansion ability. Seeing the Plus is only 30 bucks more, that's kind of a no-brainer choice. Now, how about we compare it to something a lot older, like the heavily discounted outgoing River 2 Pro from about 1.5 years ago. Well, that model has an 800-watt inverter with more outlets, a 768 watt-hour battery, and a pretty similar solar specs. Now, that doesn't offer any battery expansion, doesn't have a light, but it does have some 5521 barrel plugs along with the cigarette lighter socket. That's something that this new one doesn't have. And at $399, that's a pretty great deal. In order to beat those specs on the River 3 Plus, you would have to add on this extra battery for a grand total of about 600 bucks with code. So this whole thing is about 600 bucks. And you do get a free 45-watt solar panel with this package. So it does really come down to how much you want to spend for this size and to have the latest technology. Because for under 600 bucks, you can take home the 2-year-old 1800-watt Delta 2. That thing's been selling like hotcakes ever since Black Friday sales started. Personally, I love the size of the River 3 Plus for camping, but my primary use case is charging things like cell phones, laptops, and tablets in a very cramped space where every square inch counts. Now, as much as I love the Delta 2, it just takes up way too much space on a table or on the floor, where this thing is a fraction of the size. And what I like most about the River 3 Plus is that I can add or remove this extra battery at will and split it up. And since EcoFlow has finally decided to add a very useful 140-watt bidirectional USB port, I can now split the power in 2 locations. So say I want to use the battery to charge my laptop while my significant other uses this to charge her laptop or run her tablet. We can now do this with one power station, not have to have 2 separate charging cables, 2 separate solar cables, 2 separate everything. I can just use this battery and probably run my laptop for a couple of days. So that's fantastic. It's very versatile. I really like the fact that this does this without even using a cable. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. All right, now product price. I've already kind of given that away. But check this out. The River 3 Plus is debuting at a ridiculous 209 bucks, which by itself is a steal. But wait, there's more. Not only do you get a free 45-watt solar panel with this purchase, but EcoFlow also provided an exclusive HOBOTECH code that knocks another 10 bucks off of this, bringing the price of the River 3 Plus down to $198. That's cheaper than the Bluetti EB3A, and this thing is like several times better. Now, the discount code and free solar panel offer expires on December 27th. So after that, you're going to pay more. December 28th rolls around. Don't bother leaving a comment saying the price went up, the free solar panel's gone, and my code don't work. I know. So if you're interested in the River 3 Plus with or without the extra battery, the link and discount code is going to be in the description of this video. I'm also going to put a link here at the bottom of the screen along with a QR code that you can scan if you're watching me on TV. It'll take you on over to the EcoFlow store page where you can check out the River 3 Plus. Now, if you're looking for some post-Black Friday deals, EcoFlow is having a holiday sale with discounts up to 55% off through December 27th. Now, I do have a HOBOTECH exclusive 5% off discount code for this sale only. I'm going to list that along with the link in the description below. Now, if you're in need of a good stocking stuffer, EcoFlow now sells a magnetic power bank called the Rapid. This version is 5,000 milliamp hours, and those that took my HOBO University course already know this translates to 5 amp hours. But since we don't have any clue what the battery voltage is, it's completely useless information. Now, it does offer a 15-watt wireless magnetic charging pad. Now, the magnetic part pretty much only works with iPhones or anything that has magnetic charging. My current cell phone doesn't do it, so I can't demonstrate it. It also has a built-in kickstand, so you can open and close this kickstand. It allows you to put it this way or this way, depending on how you want to sit your phone. You can see there it has a little display with 4 lights.
Tell me how many lights you see.
There are 4 lights!
It does also have a built-in USB-C cable that is good for charging at 30 watts. So even if your phone does not support the magnetic wireless part, you can actually hook it into USB-C. It reminds me of like a cigarette case of the old days. It's about that size. Something that may be like a little metallic wallet. It's very small and lightweight. Basically, this thing will charge a new iPhone at least 1.1 times. If you have an older phone, it might do it almost 2 times. So it's something you can just throw in your glove box or your pocket and keep it with you. I do like the stand. That is very cool. It allows you to actually keep your phone upright or in landscape while you're watching HOBOTECH. One other feature about this is it can be charged at 65 watts using a USB-C charger, and that will charge it from 0 to 70% in 33 minutes. So if you're interested in this, you can check it out on the sale page listed in the description. Like I said, a great stocking stuffer. If you order now, you might get it before Christmas. So that's it for 2024. Yay! I'm now officially on vacation through the end of January 2025. I'm going to release a short video when I get to Quartzsite, Arizona for those interested in my annual desert camping meet and greet. I'm usually there with several other YouTubers camping out in the desert. I am going to be taking this with me, doing some testing. I'm going to be taking a bunch of other smaller power stations, a bunch of solar panels, doing some desert testing because that's one of the best places for me to test stuff because the sun's low in the sky, it's dusty, it's windy, and I need every watt of power I can get out there because the sun is really low in the sky. So it's kind of hard to charge my batteries some days. So I take a bunch of power stations. It gives me a good way to test things out and do some shakedowns. So I will probably have some long-term results from some of the power stations I did review here in 2024. So if you happen to be out in the Quartzsite, Arizona area around early to mid-January, I will release a video telling you where my campsite is if you want to come hang out with the group. So until then, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you very much for all your support in 2024. And of course, thanks for watching.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.